Hello and welcome, everybody. Jose J. Garcia, real estate investor, coach, and mentor, bringing you another. This is an opportunity. This is an educational video, but it's an opportunity from us, from myself, to all of you. You're going to hear why. So important, guys. Whether you are, if you're trying to create that landlord status, create that passive income, cash flow, you're going to have tenants. You're going to have people who rent homes from you, which is a great thing, but it does come with some proper steps that must be done. And this one being number one, not to be taken lightly, not to be ever skipped by any means. So let me dive right into it. I am talking about the background and screening of each and every individual over the age of 18. I'm not going to repeat that. I said it loud and clear. Anyone over 18 years of age living inside your home has to do a background. Yes, there is a fee, but it's part of process. Anywhere they go, they got to do the same thing. Now, what makes our system so unique and so much better, so much up to date, it is not only nationwide, but it's also scaling, and very here soon, it's going to be worldwide. We'll get into that here in a few minutes and talk about some of the IDs and licenses that are accepted, but it is definitely the most accurate, the quickest, and the most user-friendly. So with our screening system, and we do this with everybody, like I said, we get a thorough information. And look, granted, you're looking for different things. If you're doing a rent-to-own, creative financing, you may be paying a little more attention to their credit scores, their expenses, which we're going to go over here in a second, versus if you're going to do a renter, a tenant, numbers could be a little bit lower, and that's fine. And let's face it, some people may not have the best of credit. It's not because they have bad credit. So make sure you fly that one. It's not always low credit doesn't mean bad credit. There's two different things. Somebody could have a very low credit score, could simply mean they don't have any credit cards. They don't have any loans, no cars. They just haven't engaged in it or don't care to engage in it. And that's fine because credit score is only a small percentage of what we're looking at. I'm a little bit more focused on expenses, the ratios, income versus that sort of thing, which we'll get into. All right. So the number one thing you're going to ask for on this application is going to be a a copy of their ID. It's supposed to be front and it's supposed to be back. I know this ain't a legitimate one. You ain't getting a legitimate one on here. Okay. This is an example in a training educational module. So Emma Dojane look at that. It's Joe Don Joe and Jane Doe, whichever, whatever, right? Again, anyone over 18 has to do one. So if there was a son, a daughter, a cousin, an uncle over 18, they'd have their ID right here with them as well. And look here, you simply verify for, make sure that all the details on here is also, because you cross-reference the details that they put on their actual information, all right? Now, one thing I do pay attention to is if a license has expired. I'm not going to knock somebody for it, but I'll ask why do you have an expired license, that sort of thing. Okay. So that's number one. License, verify, make sure everything checks out. All right. Wrong way, wrong way. Now, here's one thing, guys, and I don't say it's a red flag because we get tenant residents from everywhere. Now, if we're doing business in Georgia and I see a Massachusetts ID, maybe New York City license, I may ask more in passing, are you moving into this area? Are you already moving here? Maybe haven't changed your license because again, some of that is going to matter when you're doing the background. Okay. All right, let's see. I'm gonna move on to this one. I want to make sure that we're sharing the right screens. I know with Zoom, it's been acting a little funny here lately, so I don't want to accidentally share the wrong file. But all right, we'll go to this one here and let's start the sharing. Now, I mentioned the credit score. Credit scores are clientele. We got to be a little easier with. Okay, their credit scores could be a little bit lower, and that's fine. But I am looking for more again. Income versus expenses. That's going to be number one you need to be paying attention to. If your expenses are more than your income, you got a very big red flag, right? On our portal here, our system, we're also able to check for all. And again, these are examples. These are examples. So there are some numbers on here may be legitimate, but this is not an actual background that we're using on somebody's. We do not share that, and neither should you. Do not share anyone's background with anyone else. Is there any bankruptcies? No, it's a zero. Is there any collections? None. Monthly debt payments, again, zero, but there would be a different number if this was legitimate background. And then, of course, she would give you a credit score, which that's based more so on time payments, how much ratio of credit cards you're using, and that sort of thing. Collections, that's a big one for me. So even though their credit score, I may not so much be so crazy about paying attention to, I do want to make sure that I'm paying attention to their debt and that they're paying on time. I'll show you a different angle here in a second. But if I'm coming on here and I see, and I've seen some with a lot of collections, I see 9 collections. I'm going to scroll down and I'm going to see who the collections are. When was it? And what was the amount? Because it will give you all that breakdown. So we scroll down, and out of the 9, you see the first one says, an insurance, a phone bill, whatever it may be. Okay. And it says it was for 800 bucks. Okay. When was the date? Everything has a lapse. Every all time lapse at one point. If it is 4 years old, I'm not going to sweat that. I'm not even going to pay attention to it. With us, typically it's 6 months. That's me. You decide how much time you think you need. If I see that it just happened yesterday, you can kind of see where we're going with that. Okay. Let's go on to the next one. And again, I'm paying attention to all these numbers. All these numbers mean something to me. I'm just not as, I'm pushing all kinds of buttons on here. There we go. Number 3. I like this one. You're going to see why. So, one of the things that when we get into the system, our butter, that's what we're going to call it, our butter. We were paying attention to some of these numbers. And I remember as we were going through the portal, the system, they were talking about, if you have X amount of overdrafts, at some point, even other creditors can start dinging you, that sort of thing. We start to create negative because if you go apply for, let's say, a new credit card, you get maybe a soft, maybe a hard pull on your credit, but then also you get a denial. Well, then it's like a double boo-boo, right? And what that's going to start doing is it's going to start lowering your credit score, but it's also going to start showing other negative effects on your credit. Okay. And again, credit score, I'm going to keep saying, is not the biggest thing for me. Okay. But I want more so to pay attention to their expenses. And with our system here, you're able to see how they prioritize their expenses, who they pay first. And you would assume most people pay their phone bill first. That's a given. Phone bill is number 1. Okay. Number 2, car payments. They pay their car. Good for them. Number 3, insurance. Okay. Number 3 is insurance. Number 4, groceries. I can keep on going. And these are legitimate numbers that we have seen report after report, and it's there. Groceries. Then it'll say miscellaneous. Then it'll list a couple other little things here and there. And then finally, last but not least, rent payment, which again, pay me on time. I'm okay with how you spend your money. Where you toss it at, that is irrelevant to me because I'm not here to get personal with anyone. But I'm able to come in here and see if there's any NSF accounts, if there's any overdrafts on any of their banking accounts, their income stability up and down, depends on their expenses. And again, if they're not paying rent on time, you can see where other things are more prioritized. Okay. And then this is a big one. And I'm not going to go light on this one here. Let me share again. Oh boy. All right. I like this one here. And this is why when I said nationwide, it is huge. We used to use, I'm not going to list the numbers. We used to use other sites, other sources where we would say, let's do a background, because even though credit is important, even though they're spending, it's very important. I do want to know that. What's even more important is their criminal background. Criminal. Our mobile homes are not trailer parks. They're not mobile home parks, even at this point. They're mobile home communities. And in our communities, we have people of all ages. Most of them are family, which means they have children, young age, that sort of thing. So I want to be specifically clear when I say I'm checking the criminal, and I'm taking it very seriously. Now, again, we're very easy to work with. We say we work with everybody, and we would try to. But if I come on here, and this is a perfect one you got right here. Look at this. Criminal 0, eviction 0, bankruptcy 0s. None of the above was found, which that's to me, that's a golden child, right? This is who I want in the community, because obviously they're going to do better off. If I come on here and I see criminal, and I've seen some aggressive ones, or they'll have 7, 8 charges, there'll be a list at the bottom now, which starts listing the date, starts listing the county, starts listing that they were incarcerated, whatever it is, those facts that are on their history now on the criminal side will be notated on here. Now, speeding tickets. I don't care. Okay, you were speeding, you were in a hurry to do your job, you got a ticket on that. That's not for me to look into. You weren't wearing your seatbelt. That's a shame. You should wear your seatbelt, safety first, but that's not my prerogative. Okay. I call those miscellaneous, more so personal problems, personal matters. I come on here, however, and I see felonies. Felony is a different story. Felony, at this point, I have to really look into and see what is the issue of and what was the reasoning. But I'm also going to pay attention to how old it is. And again, everything has a lapse. If it's over a year, 2 years, depends on what it is. I'm not going to be so strong on denying that application. Now, a couple of them that will get an immediate denial. There's no exception, guys. Okay. Sex offenders. If I come on here and I see sex offender, I'm not going to read into it. I'm not going to read. I don't want to know when the date was. I don't want to know specifics. The less I know in that situation, the better. The fact that it's a sex offender means you've been registered as one. You are now registered in that county or any county, wherever you move to, as a sex offender. And unfortunately, to live in the community where there's all kinds of children, one, they won't allow you anyway, not by the legal source. I'm not going to allow it either. If it's felonies from criminal and it's aggressive felonies, drugs and that sort of thing into a very aggressive back-to-back and it's recent, that would be also another denial because look, guys, let's face it, and I hate to say it this way sometimes, but history has a way of repeating itself. I don't want the sex offender to happen again. I don't want a drug somebody who's selling drugs or getting in trouble with drugs getting involved to do so again, now in the community. Okay. Our system does a thorough background. Our system is nationwide. If you have certain crimes in certain states, certain cities, certain sources, as I was talking about in a second ago, will not show you those because they do not dive into those markets, which means you could completely be missing something that you would not otherwise approve. Now, with our system, it's a clear through. I mentioned it worldwide because it is gaining. It is now in Canada. It is now in Puerto Rico, which is part of America. It is now getting into Mexico. So what happens is, let's say that you have somebody who's foreign or coming into America. They are from Canada, Australia. We are able to now run their licenses from whatever country they are from and get an actual, if nothing more, criminal side of it. Not so much into the credit, the scores, their spendings, not yet, but it is the criminal, which is the most important one. So it's a starting point, and that's a beautiful thing, which just makes this that much more important. Number one step when you are about to be a landlord, when you're about to have tenants, okay, you're about to house someone, is you need to have the proper screening to be able to approve accordingly. Email us, j@garciamhu.com, if you want us to run one of these for you. In order for you to use this system, you do have to have at least 100 homes in a system showing that you are a full-time active landlord. But with us, like everything else we do, we open the doors for all of y'all. And here's one even better. You don't have to pay for it. The applicant has to go in, has to input their information, has to fill out everything that is needed, and we will be able to see and track all the steps and make sure everything is done accordingly. And at the end, they're able to pay. Depends on when you're watching this video. Right now, it is only $50 to do one adult, but you're seeing the latest and greatest when it comes to screening because this is what you want. I don't want some go down to certain county, get some maybe it'll work kind of background from a police department. Nothing against y'all guys, but I want a real thorough one because I want it to be nationwide. If there's some issues, if it's something that I need to know, I need to know. Email us, j@garciamhu.com. Thank you for watching.